I kept walking, ignoring the murmurs that followed me, each step heavier than the last. My chest burned, not just from embarrassment but from the realization that I had been their entertainment all along. Claire and Ethan hadn't just moved on, they had made me the punchline of their twisted joke. Outside, the crisp evening air did little to cool the fire raging inside me. My hands clenched at my sides as I forced myself to breathe, to think. Leaving now meant letting them win, allowing their cruelty to define me. But staying meant enduring their mockery a moment longer, and that I couldn't stomach. "Hey, wait!" A familiar voice called out. I turned to see Rachel, Claire's maid of honor, jogging toward me, her dark curls bouncing against her shoulders. Unlike the others, her expression held something different. Guilt, maybe even sympathy. "That was messed up," she said, exhaling sharply as she reached me. I had no idea they were planning that. I studied her, looking for deceit, but found none. Rachel and I had never been close, but she had always been decent, someone I never expected to take part in their cruelty. I scoffed, shoving my hands into my pockets. "Doesn't really matter now, does it?" She hesitated, glancing back at the reception hall, where music and laughter still filled the air. "You don't deserve this." The words should have comforted me, but they didn't. Not when I was still standing here, feeling like a fool. I shook my head. "I should go." Rachel bit her lip, then nodded. "If you ever want to talk, or—" She stopped herself, as if unsure whether she should continue. "Just don't let them break you." I didn't respond. Instead, I turned and walked to my car, leaving behind the sounds of celebration and betrayal. The drive home was a blur, headlights streaking past as my mind replayed the night's events on an endless loop. Ethan, standing there with his smug grin. Claire, reveling in my humiliation. The way they all laughed, like I was nothing more than a relic of their past, a joke to be discarded. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. They thought they had won. But they had no idea who they had just betrayed. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the darkness of my apartment, staring at the ceiling as a plan took shape. My anger wasn't just a fleeting emotion, it was fuel. If Ethan and Claire wanted to play games, I'd show them what real destruction looked like. The only thing more satisfying than revenge was making sure they never saw it coming. A week passed before I saw Claire again. I had expected her to reach out sooner. Curiosity was one of her greatest weaknesses, but patience was key. Revenge wasn't about rushing in blindly. It was about striking when they least expected it. When she finally called, I let the phone ring twice before answering, keeping my tone casual. "Didn't expect to hear from you," I said, leaning back on my couch, a smirk tugging at my lips. She hesitated. "I didn't expect to call." A lie. She had planned this. Claire always needed to feel in control, even when she was crumbling. "So, why are you?" I asked. Silence stretched between us. I imagined her biting her lip, eyes darting around as she searched for the right words. Finally, she exhaled. "I saw you at the gala." I chuckled. "I know. You couldn't stop staring." She didn't deny it. "You've changed," she said, echoing her words from that night. "People do." More silence. This time, it was heavier, filled with things unsaid. Then, she spoke again, her voice softer. "Can we meet?" There it was. The opening I needed. I let a beat pass before answering. "Where?" "Somewhere private." I glanced at the clock. Late evening. Ethan wouldn't be home yet. His workaholic tendencies hadn't faded, and Claire knew it. This was calculated on her part, just as it was on mine. "Text me the address," I said. Minutes later, my phone vibrated. A hotel downtown. Classy, expensive. She wanted secrecy, indulgence. I would give her both, just not in the way she expected. When I arrived, Claire was already waiting. She wore a black silk dress, her hair cascading over her bare shoulders. She had always known how to use her beauty to her advantage, but tonight, it wouldn't work on me. She smiled, but there was something else in her eyes, uncertainty. Maybe even regret. "You came." I stepped closer, letting my gaze travel over her, slow and deliberate. "You knew I would." She swallowed, glancing away. For the first time, I saw it, the cracks in her confidence. She had won Ethan, humiliated me, yet here she was, standing in front of me, drawn back into the past she thought she had left behind. I leaned in, letting my lips hover near her ear. "Tell me, Claire, why did you really call?" She shivered. "I don't know." Another lie. I reached out, tracing a finger along her arm, barely touching her. Her breath hitched. "Yes, you do." Her resolve faltered. Then, in a moment of weakness, she did exactly what I knew she would. She kissed me. It was desperate, hungry, like she was trying to erase the years between us. Her hands tangled in my hair, pressing her body against mine. But as she lost herself in the moment, I stayed completely in control. This wasn't about passion. This was about planting the seed of her own destruction. I pulled back first, watching the way her lips parted, her chest rising and falling with uneven breaths. "We shouldn't," she whispered, but her fingers still clutched my jacket, unwilling to let go. I smirked. "Then tell me to leave." She didn't. Instead, she pulled me toward the bed. And just like that, my plan was set in motion. Claire was insatiable, lost in the thrill of rekindled lust. Each encounter deepened her betrayal, and with every stolen night, I gained another piece of the puzzle I was assembling. But this wasn't about pleasure. Not for me. Every touch, every whisper, every moment she gave herself to me was another crack in the perfect image she had built with Ethan. I documented everything. Texts, calls, photos, each one a weapon I would wield when the time came. Claire had no idea she was handing me the very tools I needed to destroy her. But I wasn't reckless. I played my part well, feeding her fantasies, making her believe she was in control. One evening, as she lay beside me, fingers tracing lazy circles on my chest, she sighed. "I don't know why I keep doing this." I turned to her, feigning curiosity. "Then why do you?" She hesitated, lips pressing together. "Ethan isn't. He's not the same." I smirked. "Or maybe you just miss me." She didn't deny it. Instead, she bit her lip, rolling onto her side to face me. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things had been different?" I trailed my fingers down her back, watching the way she shivered beneath my touch. "No point in thinking about the past." She nodded, but the flicker of doubt in her eyes told me everything. She was beginning to regret her choices. Good. Regret would make the fall even harder. A few days later, I escalated things. I left a single clue, just subtle enough to plant suspicion in Ethan's mind. A faint trace of my cologne on Claire's scarf, knowing Ethan was sharp enough to notice. 2 nights later, Claire called me in a panic. "Ethan asked me if I was seeing someone." I leaned back in my chair, amused. "And what did you say?" "I lied, of course," she snapped. "But I think he's suspicious." I grinned, satisfied. "Then you'll have to be more careful." She sighed. "I should stop this." I chuckled. "But you won't." Silence. Then, barely a whisper, "No." That was the moment I knew. She was completely under my control. And soon, Ethan would find out exactly what his beloved wife had been up to. The final phase of my revenge required precision. Claire had already set the trap herself, her guilt, her desires, her impulsive decisions. All I had to do was pull the right strings and watch her world collapse. Ethan was a man who prided himself on control, on knowing everything about his life. That's why I made sure he found out in the most humiliating way possible. I waited for the perfect moment. Their anniversary. They had planned a grand celebration, a luxurious party at an elite venue, the kind of event where socialites and business moguls gathered, where appearances meant everything. Claire had been buzzing with excitement, oblivious to the storm I had been preparing. On the night of the event, I arrived unannounced. Heads turned as I stepped in, dressed sharply, exuding confidence. I wasn't an outsider here, I was the ghost of Claire's past, walking into her present to shatter her future. Ethan spotted me first, his brows knitting in confusion before he masked it with indifference. "Didn't expect to see you here." I smirked. "Thought I'd come celebrate with the happy couple." Claire turned at the sound of my voice, and the color drained from her face. Panic flashed in her eyes, but she couldn't react, not in front of the crowd. I took pleasure in the way she shifted uncomfortably, knowing what was coming yet powerless to stop it. The lights dimmed. A projector flickered to life. The guests fell silent as the screen displayed a slideshow, a collection of moments meant to honor Ethan and Claire's love story. Only, the story had changed. Instead of wedding photos and sweet memories, the screen revealed something else entirely. Claire. In bed. Writhing beneath me. Our bodies entwined. Her moans filling the speakers, unmistakable, undeniable. Gasps echoed through the room. Someone let out a shocked cry. Glass shattered against the floor as Ethan's champagne flute slipped from his grip. Claire staggered back, hands clamping over her mouth. "No," she whispered, horror-stricken. Ethan turned to her, eyes blazing with fury, betrayal cutting deeper than any blade. "What the hell is this?" I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough for her to hear. "You humiliated me at a wedding. I thought it was only fair I returned the favor." Her lips trembled, but no words came. She had destroyed me once, never expecting that I'd come back stronger, sharper. Now, she was the one drowning in humiliation, her carefully crafted world crumbling in front of everyone. Ethan clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. "How long?" His voice was cold, lethal. Claire tried to reach for him. "Ethan, How long?" She faltered. I answered for her. "Long enough." The weight of betrayal settled in. Ethan's rage turned into something darker, something final. He looked at Claire as if she were a stranger, someone unworthy of even his anger. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away. Claire collapsed to the floor, sobbing, while the crowd whispered, their judgmental stares piercing through her like knives. I exhaled, satisfaction settling in my chest. Revenge wasn't just about winning. It was about making sure they never forgot who they had wronged. And Claire would never forget.